All right, hi and good morning. It's Jennifer Britton, and it is November the 20th, actually November the 19th. Great to have all of you here for our next Blab. This is Blab number 4, and I'm hoping that people are hearing me okay. So I can see that we've got a number of people on the line already. If you are here and you can hear me, please just give me a bit of a message. Our last Blab had a bit of a technical default, so we're trying something a little bit different. This is all the name of the game in terms of looking at technology. So want to welcome all of you. I am streaming live, and I know from past emails there are a lot of people who do join me after the fact, listening in to our different Blabs. So this is the 4th of our Blabs. Today's topic is all about creating a vision for yourself for 2016 and looking at wind down activities for 2015. So we have 42 days left to go, and I'm curious to get you to reflect, because again, we're not having this necessarily stream with you live. I'd like you to think about what it is that you hope you are going to complete and wrap up before the end of the year. Today, I'm going to be doing a bit of modeling, and I'd love for you to, number one, maybe grab a pen and a piece of paper. You can, of course, open up a new document on your computer screen. I think this really is the time of year that we start getting active with our clients around what their vision is and what they also want to bring to bear, finish across the finish line by the end of the year. So that is going to be the focus of today's Blab. A couple of announcements before we get going. I have scheduled the rest of the Blabs to the end of the year, hoping to make this a regular thing. And the next Blab is going to be hosted here at the Group Coaching Design Studio on Wednesday the 25th at 9:30. So a week today is American Thanksgiving. Won't be doing a Blab next Thursday, but you can join me next Wednesday the 29th at 9:30 Eastern. And we'll be looking at different ways to work with visual cards. You might recall, if you visited the first Blab I hosted back in October, I did bring in some visual card decks. Next call, we'll be looking at that. It certainly is a really great augment and add-on for coaches today in terms of things that they're able to utilize within their group and team coaching work. You may be doing workshops, webinars, teleclasses, retreats, and in fact, visual cards are excellent in that phase as well. So just going to do a little check here. I think we are streaming okay, and want to welcome people who are here. I can see that Walter's just joined us. Welcome to you, Walter. If you can hear me okay, maybe you can just give a quick message that yes, you can hear, or definitely do a clap of hands, and that way I can tell that you've got it. So great. So welcome to you, Walter. Today we're looking at wrapping up the year and moving into 2016 planning. If you are a coach, I'm sure that this is a time of year that most of you are getting into a lot of discussions around what have you achieved and where are you going in the new year. So I wanted to start off with a quote I often share with groups, teams, and individuals that I work with, and this actually comes from Seneca, so going back to ancient Greece. And he wrote, "To a person who does not know where he wants to go, there is no favorable wind." I think one of the gifts that coaching can really give, whether it is in that individual, group, or team modality, is the benefit of the pause. And in today's frenetic world, many of us are just running. Well, in fact, a coaching conversation, whether it's a micro conversation in a few minutes or an hour long, gives us that opportunity to just stop and pause. And in fact, in today's session here at the Blab, that's what I wanted to give all of you. We're going to go through a quick reflection activity. I'd invite you, if you've just joined us, to grab a pen, a piece of paper, or a computer screen. We've got 42 days to go in the year 2015, and I want to give you an opportunity to do some reflection back on what you've achieved, as well as thinking forward around where you want to go. So if you know of others who might benefit by being here, I'll invite you to just tell a little bird, and you might know that over on the left-hand side of the screen, you can tell a little bird that we're online. I am hoping, depending on how our call goes today, to open up the seat. Usually in some of our past calls, we've had some really good questions that have surfaced as we've gone through. But to get us going, here's some questions for you to think about as you go to wrap up the last 42 days of 2015. I first want you to think back to the month of January. January 1st, 2015. If you can imagine and think back to where you were that day, what were the intentions you set for yourself around this year? Where did you hope you'd be by this time at the end of 2015? And what did you hope that you would have achieved? I think at this time of year, many of us are moving through projects. We're really trying to get things across the finish line, and it can be a great feeling. It can also be a lot of pressure for those of us that have a long list of things to do. So I'd like to give you this opportunity to just pause for a minute and to make note for yourself around what are the projects you want to bring to a close before the end of the year. Maybe there's one or two things that you really, really want to make sure you get accomplished before the year runs out. Take a note for yourself on what that project is, and also think about by when. What's realistic in terms of wrapping up this project, and what's it going to take? What do you need in order to be successful in getting this project across the finish line? I'm going to pause just for about 20 to 30 seconds, allowing you to take some notes for yourself around your own projects that you want to make sure you wrap up by the end of the year. Now, many of us work in the realm of goals and projects. If you're noticing that perhaps that project you need to bring across the finish line is pretty big, I'll invite you to use your coaching skills of working to help people chunk it down. You know, what are those more manageable areas and tasks and things you can be doing in order to be getting that project successfully across the finish line? Now, another series of questions, a little bit different than what you want to complete. I'd actually like you to think about what have been your major achievements this year. This is a great time of year to be taking our clients through a reflective process and almost a listing process of what they've done. So for yourself, I'd like you to list out what have you done? What are your major accomplishments this year? And as you think about those, what has been the learning for you, whether you're learning as a coach, a business owner, a professional? What has been that learning for you as you've moved through these different projects and initiatives? Again, take about 30 seconds. I'll sit here in quiet, and I'll get you to think about what have been your major achievements and also lessons learned this year. So it's never enough time, but we do have a time limit on this. I'll invite you, actually, if you really enjoy this process, to make sure you're noting down these questions and to spend some time after our Blab today further refining these. And of course, share these with your clients. I think as newer coaches, sometimes we're curious, how do we work with our clients around vision? And this is very much a typical process that I would be taking and do take a lot of my clients through. In fact, earlier this week with one of the leaders that I work with, we started going through her year-end reflection process. She's going to be taking some holiday, thankfully. And so given that, you know, we really only have about 3 more weeks to be working together. So one other question, as we're still reflecting on the year that was in 2015, I'd like you to identify for yourself some of the key relationships you fostered and leaned into this year. And again, as developing our vision, certainly looking at our relationships, it's so critical. Our relationships are like the currency of business. Relationships are the things that help us maximize our work. If you are a coach, chances are you're probably a solopreneur or working in a small company, and this is where it's really important that we have a wide range of relationships we can lean into. So I'd like you to think and note for yourself, what are some of the key relationships which have helped you be successful this year? Maybe it's been some collaborations you've had or joint ventures. Think about what are those key relationships that have worked for you this year. Please take just a few seconds, again about 30 seconds, to think about what key relationships, maybe the connectors in your life, maybe the people who have been advocates in spreading the word for you, who are some of those key relationships for you this year? So the one thing that I love about our work as coaches is going through this process of visioning. And I know some of you are just dropping in, so if you've just joined us, welcome. We're going through some reflection questions that you might want to consider utilizing in your own work as a coach when you're working with your clients around vision. We've just taken a look at wrapping up 2015. I think at this time of year, it's a great opportunity to start thinking back to what was. And now we're going to just spend a few minutes thinking forward. You know, again, there's a lot that's been written around intentionality, about having a plan. In as much as we want to create a pause for people to look back at the year, I think it's also important to get people started to think about planning. And yes, it might be a little bit early, 42 days to go, but for many of us, we do start to wind down at this time of year. I'm based out of Toronto, Canada, so while we don't celebrate Thanksgiving like many of you will be doing next week, it is a time of year where as the snow starts to fall, we really do, and of course we're still waiting on snow this year, but it is a time of year where we do get to be a bit more inward. So I've got a few questions here for you around thinking forward to 2016. And actually, I was really sort of, as I was sitting down to write these out this morning, I was thinking, okay, what are the ones that I think are going to give a little bit more impact? I get to spend some time in the coming weeks through the, it's called the Inner Biz Leader Virtual Business Planning Retreat. For the last 8-9 years at this time of year, I've run a one-day virtual retreat process where I bring small business owners of all stripes together for a day of actual real-time retreating. And I'm doing one this Friday, as well as another one on December 4th. So if you really like this process, consider joining me on December 4th, where there's still registration spots for the Inner Biz Leader Virtual Business Planning Retreat. But I want to give you just a sampler of a couple of things where you can think forward. And welcome, and I see that I've got another Canadian on the line, so welcome to our colleague, I think it's Walter out in Newfoundland. Excellent. I don't know if you've had snow yet, but snow is on its way for us later this week. I'd like all of you to think about, what do you want to create in 2016? And here's a question to start with. Number one, what's the one big goal you have for yourself or you want to set for yourself in 2016? If you knew you could not fail, what would be the one thing you really want to achieve during this next year? And I'd invite you to write that down big and bold and actually be putting it in a place that is visible. We do know that in goal setting, it is important to keep our goals in front of us, not only make them, you know, a stretch goal, but make sure that really they are something that is exciting for us. So I don't just talk about SMART goals, I talk about SMART E goals, E for exciting. And we need to keep them visible. There's something about seeing it regularly that helps reinforce us. So just take another few seconds to think about, what's that one big goal you want to achieve in 2016? And of course, it's great to have goals, but what's going to help you be successful? In fact, who will help you be successful? A few minutes ago, I asked you to think of your key relationships this year. In the coming year, I want you to think about who might be people who can help you get your goal achieved. And I see that that struck a bit of a chord. So yeah, we are not an island. We have to work through others. So who can help you get there? Take a few minutes or take a few seconds for some notes for yourself. I think it's also useful to have a stretch goal. Okay, so you might want to think about what's that stretch goal? What's that one stretch item that's really going to help you move forward in 2016? Maybe your goal is to double your business, or maybe you're a new coach and you want to expand your practice and your client base. What's the thing that's going to really stretch you in a supportive way? And welcome to those that are just joining us. We're moving through a process of some vision questions for the new year. And I see, oh, there's Walter from Newfoundland, and who's got snow and was raised in Toronto. So great, Walter. One final question for all of us to consider, and again, we're just doing a very high level, quick questions for all of you. What's the one bucket list item you want to complete in the new year? And, you know, many of our clients have their bucket list. It was only a few weeks ago, actually, that I sat down to write my own bucket list. A little bit about my own background. I spent most of my 20s into my mid-30s working globally. I was based across Central and South America, the Caribbean, Europe. I worked as a program manager and director for a number of Canadian and British NGOs and also the United Nations. And so every day was chock full for so many years. In the last 12 years of running a business now in Canada, it was interesting for me to sit down as part of an assignment to think about what I would actually put on my bucket list. And I'd like you, if you don't have a bucket list yet, you know, what's the one thing that you really always wanted to do but have not done yet in your life? It can be pretty exhilarating to think of what those things might be. And again, we're looking at vision questions today in the spirit of thinking about what would you like to do with your coaching clients in helping them reflect on the year that was, 2015, and also think about the year that lies ahead. So we've had a number of people just dial in, and I'll invite you after today's call, if you're interested, go back and listen to the recording. We've gone through about 8 questions that I wanted to share with everyone to do this reflection, as well as looking forward. One of the things I like to do in this process is to actually open up our seat to see if anyone has questions about group coaching. That's what the focus of this Blab is. If you're just joining us, welcome. I'm Jennifer Britton. I'm the author of 2 books on group coaching. The first one called Effective Group Coaching, and the second one, From One to Many, Best Practices for Team and Group Coaching. And in the last decade, actually, it will turn 10 through the Group Coaching Essentials program in January. So stay tuned for a lot of sort of 2016 celebrations from my end around helping you, as whether you're a coach, facilitator, trainer, or even a leader, helping you do better work, greater work, more masterful work with your own clients. I want to open the seat, and I'm just curious if anyone's on the line right now that wants to jump into the chair. If you're new to blabbing, you can just grab the open seat here, and let's see if you have any questions. And if not, I've had some interesting emails this week, so I'm going to give another shout out. If you'd like to jump in the open seat, please do so. And if not, I want to go to my list of some common questions that came up this week at our not only our Facebook page, so on Facebook we're Effective Group Coaching, and I also blog at groupcoaching.blogspot.com. One of the questions and one of the focus areas I've been looking at recently at the blog is engagement. And really, coaching is a conversation. So it's a bit interesting being on a platform like this, the Blab, when no one wants to jump into an open seat to just keep the conversation rolling. And that's where we can use questions, like we just did a few minutes ago. Use questions to help you get more clear on your own ideas. As coaches, we work with a wide range of personality types. And actually, my blog post earlier this week was about debunking the myth that everyone engages in the same way. as we look at how technology continues to change, it's pretty interesting. Some people are a lot more outgoing in these virtual channels, and for others, when technology isn't as comfortable, it can actually mean that rather than people verbally engaging, they may just actually withdraw. So as a coach, we want to make sure we're confident in our abilities and make sure that we're not making a lot of assumptions. We want to make sure that we are looking at how do we really create an environment, and looking at our own typical clients, which are going to vary, what are the best approaches? So I want to just read out, I think, what's sort of fun on this channel if no one wants to jump into the open seat. And again, for those that are just dropping in, if you have a question about group coaching, coaching in general, we're going to open up the seat in a minute for anyone who's interested. With me today, we've had Walter. I want to thank you for being here, Walter, from Newfoundland. And he's been an internet marketing coach for the last 2 years. And one of the things I've asked people to reflect on today are your goals for the next year. We're 42 days out, so there's still a little bit of time for us to get those important projects over the goal line. I've asked people to think about what's it going to take to get those things complete so that as we step into the new year, 42 days from now, it's really easy to get moving. As I was just saying, a lot of the questions that are coming up right now, I think for coaches, are what is the new year going to look like? Who do I want to be working with? What programs do I want to be offering? What products do I want to be offering as well? Because as technology continues to unfold, and again, if we look at Blab as a baseline, it's pretty interesting to see how people are engaging not only real time, but if we look at Blab stats, my second Blab here was viewed, I think we had about maximum of 10 people on the line, had a couple people jump into the open seat, and it's been viewed more than 500 times in the last 2 weeks. I think that's pretty amazing. We don't know what is going to go forward. So I hope for some of you that have joined us today that it's been a bit of an inspiration for you to think about how can you be working with your clients around vision. We have a couple more calls or Blabs scheduled for the next couple of weeks. And next week, which will be on Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern, I'm going to be looking at how to bring visuals into your work as a coach. I sort of touched on that topic in our first Blab, but photos, visuals, photo decks are a great way to be working with your clients. We're also going to be looking at some theme areas you might want to consider bringing into your coaching in a future Blab. That's not next week, but in a future Blab. And I will be doing one more phase around prep for the new year, especially as we move closer to the holiday time. So, Walter, you've been with me throughout this call. If you don't want to jump into the open seat, I'm curious if you'd like to share what was most useful out of the call today. Maybe I see that you've gotten some insights in terms of your goals. Is there anything else that you're taking away from your participation and time this morning? And as I see if Walter wants to answer that, just want to say thank you for all of you joining me. Couple of programs that are upcoming, just want to give a little plug in case you need some additional ICF continuing coach education hours. December 1st, we launch the last Group Coaching Essentials teleseminar of the year. That program is a 5-session program giving you the nuts and bolts and best practices around designing, marketing, and implementing your own group coaching work, whether you're doing it with public groups, corporate groups, in person or by phone. We'll be meeting, it's a Tuesday, Thursday. It's a bit of an accelerated program. Tuesday, Thursday afternoons, 1:30 to 2:45 p.m. Eastern, Toronto time. And we meet on a bridge line, which can be accessed through VoIP, Skype, etc. Would love for you to join me. You can find out more about that program at groupcoachingessentials.com, and the program is called Group Coaching Essentials. It is approved by the ICF, the International Coach Federation, for 8.75 hours. And as I mentioned, today's call was really sort of shaped by some of the visioning work I'm going to be doing with business owners like yourself. In a few weeks, I have another virtual retreat day that's opening up on December the 4th. It's Friday. We spend 8 hours together on the phone, and we might actually bring in some Blab opportunities. I haven't thought of what we'll be doing that day, but we go through actually 8 hours of structured activities to help you gain clarity and vision around your business, as well as start moving forward on your business planning for the new year. So it is an optimum time of year. thanks for everyone joining me. And I'm just going to scroll down here and looking at, who was here today dropping in. Hope you got some good value. Thanks for joining me today, Walter, as well. Hope you'll come back for another Blab. And want to say thank you. So see you again next Wednesday, November the 24th, I believe it is, 25th, and we're going to be meeting at 9:30 a.m. So take care, everyone. It's Jennifer Britton, author of Effective Group Coaching. Thanks for joining me for another Blab. Take care.